Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever edition of G Talk with Gukill here. The pilot episode that I posted about a week ago went very well, in my opinion, and I'm excited to be able to post this for you guys on a consistent basis, looking at about twice a week. And we're going to talk about the latest and hottest trending topics in both the Diablo and Warcraft universes. And today, we're going to talk about Diablo and its recent community outcry that has been the talk of Twitter and the talk of the Diablo forums as well. So maybe you may not have seen, and I've posted a link below in the description for you guys to check out, but there has been a post by community MVP Jh, who is well known to us in the Diablo community as one of the best wizard players in the world, a post that is an outcry towards botters, people who use automated computer programs to be able to do all their farming for them in Diablo 3. Now, some of you may have been wondering how it is possible that some of the people that are the top players on the leaderboards have a astonishing amount of gameplay, averaging about 19 to 20 hours a day. It surely is inhuman, and the fact is, guys, is that it is. There are lots of players that use botting programs in order to not only contribute to their paragon levels, which makes their characters more powerful, but it also spares them time that they need to use themselves in their day to get things such as greater F keystones, get farming materials for rerolling of items. At the end of the day, it is a form of cheating that is against Blizzard's terms of use agreement. And maybe some of you don't remember this, but when Diablo 3 initially was talking about coming out, almost 4 years ago now, Blizzard boasted about their new anti-botting program called Warden, which was surely going to capture every single person that planned to bot and get them out of the game. And it wasn't too long before that proved to be absolutely null and void. There were people botting all over the auction house, selling items for ridiculous sums of money when real money auction house was still a thing. The botting trend has continued in Reaper of Souls, and it has only gotten worse as more and more time has gone on. Now, with it being such a clear, distinct advantage to have significant paragon levels higher than the person you are competing against on the leaderboards, and especially for people who know that top leaderboard placing equals a certain amount of fame within the Diablo community. I mean, let's face it, if you look at the leaderboards and you see a guy is ranked number 6 in North America, or perhaps comparatively he's number 10 in the world, you're likely going to take a greater look at any content that they're posting because they're going to be able to have a better view on how to achieve that rank. That being said, with all those things in mind, it encourages the use of programs like this, of botting programs like this, because, hey, if a lot of people are already using it, and you're somebody that really wants to distribute and make content regarding Diablo, and you want to be looked at as a credible source, you may look to these botting programs in order to help keep you on the level of everybody else that is using that. Or maybe you just need a botting program in order to keep your paragon levels high so that you can contend with actually skilled players who, in my opinion, I view people such as Datmods and Quinn and Alkazer as actually skilled players who play the game honestly, and they really are talented players that are able to do things skill-based wise that they could probably do at lower paragon levels. But that being said, the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes when you can't compare with people skill-wise, you need to do everything you could possibly do to get a stat advantage, which in Diablo's case is paragon levels. If you are somebody with 1300 paragon levels compared to somebody with 800, you're going to have a significant stat advantage to the point that maybe that paragon 800 level player can't actually compete with you at the level that you're able to clear content. So it's clearly a problem, and it has actually caused a lot of bashing within the Diablo community, because as soon as this post went up, and some of the names of some of the more popular streamers went on the name of people signing this ballot, so to speak, or signing this petition for Blizzard to take a more aggressive approach towards botters and being able to punish them, there was immediately the shit-flinging section that came out. The people that started throwing accusations at various streamers, and obviously the one that comes to mind most for a lot of people is Gabinator, somebody who averages on every season basically 19 to 20 hours of time played. And to people, that just seems unrealistic. They go, this guy has been botting. They throw names at everybody else. They say that some of the people that I feel are more honest, such as Quinn and Datmods, they're not immune to botting. They've done it. They've clearly done it if you can see how much they've played. And I mean, At the end of the day, we don't really know, and there's accusations that are getting thrown around, and it's honestly bringing kind of a nasty mess to the Diablo community as far as people who are popular streamers are constantly playing with people in their streams, accusing them of botting, or on the forums, people accusing these players of botting. At the end of the day, there needs to be a solution to this. And that's what we're going to talk about, is how we can really take this situation, which has been pointed out by somebody who has a really great reputation within the Diablo community and with Blizzard itself. JH is a very knowledgeable, informative poster who has done great work posting guides for Wizards, as well as posting guides for people doing farming routes or wanting to do maybe more unique and creative builds, not staying to the mold of the current Diablo meta, where one build generally dominates all the other builds. The fact that he is the one outcrying this means that there should be more attention, more of a magnifying glass put up against this issue. But it's not such an easy issue to fix. Diablo is an action RPG, which tends to encourage, for people who want to stay competitive, grinding and grinding and grinding in order to get more powerful gear, to get more powerful stats, and to generally stay above the rest of the players. So that being said, the more you grind, the more success you're going to have versus people who don't grind. Seems pretty simple, but then when you incorporate botting programs, this is where the messiness comes into play. So how can Diablo and the Blizzard community and the Blizzard developers who work on this game diligently, is there a way to ever remove botting? Is there a way to really make botting go away entirely, or at least heavily discourage people from using botting programs? So there's a few ways that you can look at this, and in my opinion, the best way to look at this is the fact that, let's take a look at the stance that Blizzard already took. The fact that they were raking in, you have to imagine they were raking in tons and tons of dollars. I'm not going to go into thousands, hundred thousands, millions. I really don't know what that number would be. But the fact is that they stopped the real money auction house cold in its tracks, knowing full well that there were botters using the real money auction house in order to get profit for themselves. Blizzard saw this in some capacity and were able to say, you know what? This isn't good for the game. We need to get rid of the auction house entirely. So that was a huge deterrent for botters right off of the get-go. And to be honest, I can't really remember a time at Reaper of Souls launch where I looked at anybody and really thought about botting or thought about, hey, yeah, that guy, something's fishy there. Because at the end of the day, there wasn't anything of a competitive aspect to Diablo at that time. Reaper of Souls didn't have leaderboards. They didn't have greater rifts. They didn't have that. It was just based purely on getting gear, grinding paragon levels, and at the end of the day, it was just kind of nice if you had maybe the best geared witch doctor in your clan. That's kind of what people were going for, being able to clear things efficiently by yourself, as well as being able to do it in a group. The problem only started to really surface when seasons were introduced and a competitive aspect was added to Diablo. Now, I have talked about Greater Risk before, maybe just with my friends. I haven't really said anything online, and maybe that's better saved for another video, but I have said that if you're going to have a competitive aspect to Diablo, you do need to remove as much RNG as possible from Diablo, or else people are going to just view the game as if you want to be top, you have to know life, and you have to get super, super lucky. And that is what has encouraged botting to really resurface in the game and really dominate as far as when you look at the leaderboards, the amount of people have been allegedly playing for 20 hours a day. It's pretty incredible to see how many actually occupy those top 100 spots. So how can this be deterred? I think a good way to start deterring botters is a paragon cap. And I know that I've posted this on forums, and I've gotten a little bit of flack about it, but I really do feel that if there was just a cap, and it doesn't need to be so little that discourages some of these top streamers who are playing for 8 to 10 hours a day from stopping playing because they just go, what's the point if I'm going to be at cap in 2 weeks? It's not what I'm saying, but if we take a look back to vanilla D3, when they introduced paragon levels and made a cap of paragon level 100, there was no competitive aspect tied to that, but it did wind up being a good system, because even if you played 2 hours a day or you played 15 hours a day, yeah, the guy who played 15 hours a day was probably going to get paragon 100 at least 2 to 3 months before you did, but that didn't mean that you couldn't achieve it. It just meant that somebody was going to do it faster, and there are lots of people. Gamers are very smart community. And I'm probably going to get flack for saying that too, but generally, people who spend a lot of time on the internet in a community playing games, they're generally educated enough to realize that there's always going to be somebody who's playing more than them. And they are accepting of that fact. They're accepting of the fact that, yeah, you know what? That guy got a higher level before me, but he also plays 15 hours a day, and that's fine. But if I keep going at my pace, I'm eventually going to get there. And that gives a little bit more hope for people who only play 2-3 hours a day, play on a casual basis, maybe can only do a real great grind session one time a week for them to keep playing the game. It'll discourage botters away from the game, because what's the point in using a botting program to get to a max level that somebody who is going to play for 2 hours a day for 3-4 months can also get to that max level? Why would you do that? That's going to put a huge risk on your account. It's going to put a huge negative mark on you within your maybe clan community or through the Diablo community itself. If you're caught using these programs, the risk doesn't really outweigh the reward at that point. I think that would be a great way to do it. I don't know what you would set a paragon cap at, but I do think if you set a paragon cap, it really will discourage people from feeling the need to use a program, as well as feeling the need to play that hardcore all of the time. It is a long grind at Seasons right now to try and upkeep a 10, 9, 11 hour a day scheduled amount of time to play for 3 to 4 months. It's pretty hard, and it's probably not fair to them. I mean, Diablo isn't really a game where the content is super, super diverse in a way that it's something that can keep you hooked on for 3-4 months. And that's something that I think Diablo needs to address, honestly, as a game itself. But that being said, why do people need to play the game that frequently just in order to stay competitive? It seems a little crazy. And I think if you looked at other games where people are competitive, are there people doing that? Absolutely, but you don't need to do it to stay competitive. And unfortunately, with the way Diablo has kind of shifted towards, you really kind of need to be at a high enough paragon level in order to realistically compete with people who have such a significant stat advantage over them. Now, the other way to go about this is to have Blizzard just simply ban anybody who has been playing at an unrealistic amount of time for an extended length of time. Is it unrealistic to think that somebody plays on average 9 to 10 hours a day? No, it's generally not. That's if somebody came to work, went to their job, worked for 8 to 10 hours, came home and did nothing but play Diablo, and then slept for 3-4 hours. Yeah, you could completely do that. That's very, very realistic. But somebody playing for 20 hours a day for 6-7 weeks straight is clearly not realistic. And Blizzard could just make the stance of just looking at every single one of those accounts and saying, no, you are doing something fishy. Here is a temporary suspension or a ban, whatever way they want to view it. Now, that would be seen as a positive by a lot of people within the community, but the negative that comes along with that is that there are people that spend a lot of time in town just AFK or not playing the game, just communicating, just in their voice comms, whatever it is that they're doing, and that accumulates a lot of time. I mean, I know people that just stay logged in all the time. So how do you differentiate those people from the people that are actively botting? And that's what I kind of struggle to see how Blizzard could do that. You could look at things such as blood shards and looking at how many blood shards people have picked up. So for example, when the blood shard exploit was prevalent throughout Diablo for the couple days that it did exist, all Blizzard had to do is go look at the blood shard count and say, yeah, you know what? That doesn't make sense. These are the guys that were putting a suspension on or rolling back or whatever it was. You could do it through that. You could do it through keystones accumulated. You know Blizzard has to have this data in some capacity. This is something that Blizzard could use in order to kind of filter out the botting community. Is that the way to do it? I don't know, but that's also another way to look at this. So we've already covered Paragon Cap, and we've already covered time played. Is there any other way to combat botting? Well, you could say Blizzard could do a bigger revamp of their Warden program, which initially worked great. There were people that I talked to that said, you know what, I tried botting on Diablo 3 Vanilla, and I was just banned like that, just within a day or so of trying to do it. Blizzard picked me up and banned me right away. And I don't really know what happened along the way, and it's probably just a case of people who are smart with computers just found a way around Blizzard's code or around Blizzard's system, but you would think that Blizzard sees botting as a significant enough problem that it's generally going to be worth the time invested to clean up their game a little bit and make it full of honest players. Now, I don't know if that's actually the case. One could make a case that Blizzard doesn't mind all these botters playing the game because it gives them more game traffic and it also creates more copies sold, so it's better for their business. But at the end of the day, Diablo, if there's one thing that Diablo has struggled with since its launch, is reputation of the game. And initially the game wasn't very good. I think it's come leaps and bounds since then. But if people who want to come back to the game see that it's a game riddled with bots, yeah, that might be something that discourages people. So maybe a reinvestment into their botting program, their botting detection program, I should say, something like that would be worth the money spent in order to just do a little bit more to clean up the game. So the last thing I'm going to talk about, guys, is just simply the Greater Rift system itself and how Blizzard can do more to help themselves with preventing that need to want to bot. Now, right now, the way Greater Rifts work is you get a random dungeon at a difficulty that you set out to do, and you try to clear it within 15 minutes, which is all fine and dandy. But if you've seen any forum post about Greater Rifts and flaws with classes, as well as just maybe you trying Greater Rifts yourself, you would know that a lot of it is based on just the mob type you get and the map type that you get. And that's fine in the sense that Diablo is a RNG game, so if you're going to have loot and everything based on random chance to drop or random crafting or whatever it is, and then you want your competitive ladder to also be based on that same type of luck, that's fine and that's great. But when I talk to different people about this, and we talk about what if Blizzard were to have a Diablo tournament? Let's say they were just going to bring 5 of the best monks, and then the best wizards, and the best barbarians, and so on and so on. They just brought 30 people to BlizzCon, that 5 of them were all the top of their class. And they were going to do a competition of who could clear a Greater Rift 70 the fastest. You couldn't leave that up to chance. In order to have it be fair competitively, it would have to be the same map with the same mobs, with the same shrines, in order to make it truly competitive. And that's honestly where I feel that Diablo really falls backwards from its other games as far as being truly viable as a competitive game. Yeah, leaderboards exist, but what do they really mean? They mean that you grinded the most and you got lucky. If you were able to standardize your Greater Rift system where, I mean, I'm not saying that every Greater Rift necessarily needs to be the same, but if maybe you could choose from tile sets or choose something along those lines where you as the player could say, yeah, you know what, I want to do this map with these monsters on this difficulty, and then go at it and then try and rank up as best as you can. Yeah, then maybe you funnel in a paragon cap alongside of that. You're going to create a more competitive player base with a little bit more honesty in there, because then you could combine your casual players who play a couple hours a day. Yeah, you know what, they could feel the need to compete with some of these people who play for hours and hours and hours and hours upon day, just maybe based on the fact that you're just a skilled Diablo player. You just don't have time to grind. That is another key problem with its system right now, because it's so based on luck that essentially you need to grind and grind and grind and grind, so that if you wind up with a rift that's unfavorable to you, maybe you're high enough paragon level that you can just simply circumvent some of the issues that you're going to have with monsters there. Maybe you have enough vitality that you can take a hit that normally would one-shot you if you were Paragon 800, but now that you're 1300, you can take that hit 1 or 2 times. It allows for more mistakes. It allows for more wiggle room. And I don't think that it's necessarily fair to draw time invested towards a player's strength. And that sounds weird, but when you think of other competitive games, the person who generally plays longer than you in a game like, let's say, for example, Counter-Strike, in a game like that, yeah, the person who plays longer than you is generally going to be more skilled at the game at you, but that doesn't mean that their character is directly going to be plus 600 in stat better than you, because then that would make the game unbalanced. And that's kind of where Diablo struggles right now. That's the root problem of it, is that at its core, it's an unbalanced game. So how can you really have competitiveness funneled into that? So as my fourth suggestion, I would suggest a rehauling of the Greater Rift system. They've already done great with it so far as where it started out and where it is now, but they can expand upon it to draw more competitive eyes to the game, to encourage more honest gameplay, in the sense that yeah, you know what, the Quins and Alcases of the world, they could get Paragon, let's say the cap is 1,500 or 1,200. They could do that in 3 or 4 weeks, but the season is 4 months long. So yeah, while they are at their max Paragon level trying to grind out the max level that they can do for greater rifting, you know, trying to push the limits of that, the other people who are playing the game, maybe in 4 months they get to that same spot, then, oh, hey, I've only got a week or two to practice against this, but at least I have a chance. At least I have a shot. At least I feel like now I'm on par with the other players who have been playing the game now. I've caught up, and now I can do the damage. So, at the end of the day, summarize this up. Is botting a problem? Absolutely. But is botting a problem that can't be solved? I don't think so. I just think that while botting is probably always going to exist, right now the current state of the game encourages people to seek out those botting programs because of the nature of the game itself, the way the game has gotten very, very grindy, and the way that the greater rifting system works. I've suggested some ways to counteract that, and maybe some people like some of these suggestions and want to bring them up to Blizzard. Maybe it's something that I could talk to somebody at Blizzard about at BlizzCon, say, have you guys ever thought of this? And you know what, I'm sure they have. But at the end of the day, we know that it's a problem, but how do we fix it? So I've shared my suggestions. If you guys liked what I had to say, if you guys agree with me or disagree with me, you know, like the video, comment, leave your positive messages or your hate messages, whatever it is, leave them below in the comment section. Leave them on Twitter, where I've linked my Twitter below. I would be happy to discuss this with you guys. At the end of the day, I love Diablo. I love the gameplay in general. I like action RPGs, and I think it has an engaging style of play right now. I think that Diablo is probably better than it's ever been. However, when I see somebody like Jage, who I actually respect a lot in the Diablo community, saying, I honestly, I don't pick up the game anymore. I don't play it. There's a significant problem with botting, and I feel like it's not honest, and that my honest gameplay isn't being rewarded in kind because I see all these people cheating and cheating and cheating, and I've just thrown my hands up in the air and said, you know what, I don't play it anymore. It's such a problem. To me, that resonates, and I think it's great that he started something with that, and that we've seen more and more people now outcrying about bots, and I just hope that that continues. I hope that we find some sort of solution to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of G Talk. I'll be back at you in a couple of days with something new. As far as recent news, we got the last little tidbit about BlizzCon, and that Linkin Park is going to be the closing ceremony main performance. Cool beans. It's kind of a mixed bag for me, but I knew nothing was going to top, for me personally, Metallica from last year. So I'm satisfied. I'm happy. Hopefully, we don't have a dry spell now for the next 2 weeks as far as new or interesting content reveals when it comes to Blizzard. Hopefully, they don't stay super, super silent, so we still have some things to talk about. But we'll come up with something new for next week. Thanks, guys, for listening. I'm out. I'll catch you in a couple days.